that's altijd lekker. That's always nice, right?
Thirsty?
Yeah, I'm thirsty, right?
Delicious.
I'm happy to welcome at this table Mr. Ing Yang Ong, and he is from Heineken, of course, and he is accompanied by his partners Ragnar from PwC and Jalmar from T-Systems. So a little applause, please. So to start with, besides always great, I'm a fan of your moody, so to speak, your commercials. But your ambition to want to be the best connected brewer focuses not only on the business customer and consumers, but also on partners and employees. That seems quite a lot. So let us give a little context here.
Sure. Let me start with why do we think we need to become the best connected brewer, as we say. Heineken has grown over the last 160 years with great connections. We know our consumers, we know our customers, we have great ads like you just showed and asked me to take with you. But those connections are changing. The world around us is changing. So we say, if we want to grow also towards the future, we need to adapt how we build those connections, and there technology and digital plays a very important role. At the same time, just building those connections with our customers and our consumers is not sufficient, because we rely heavily on partners. For the supply chain, as we all know, it's quite challenging, so having good connections and good interactions with partners is increasingly important. And we also know that employees, and hopefully everyone understands, is really key to any transformation to make. And what we see is that our employees really expect very different experiences. So we talk a lot about customer experience, consumer experience. More and more we talk about employee experience and making sure that as we digitize, we take those employees along.
So, the core of your program, in a technological sense, Ian, let's get down to business. What are you doing to get connected?
So if you talk about technology in itself, and our strategy is much broader than only technology, we talk about what three-ringed architecture we are moving towards. That three-ring architecture consists of a small core, we call it digital lean core, which is a slimmed-down ERP. Around that, we have a ring of cloud-based business platforms. So we recognize as Heineken, we are not unique in every process that we do. So we'll rely really on adding value to our business in the transformation by adopting a lot of cloud-based business platforms that all tie into this very slim core. And around that digital backbone, as we call it, those two rings, we have a third ring, which is digital products. And that is the ring where we will really drive differentiation and innovation. So we say the core, the business platforms, we keep those as standard as possible. So we will adapt business processes, ways of working, to make sure we standardize as much as possible. But then that third layer, digital products, is really where we drive the digital, I'd say, ambitions when it comes to innovation and differentiation.
And Ian, that thinking has been around probably for as long as we know each other. Previously, that was never feasible. Now it is feasible. What has changed? What is now driving Heineken that you can do this?
Great consultants. No, partners. And partners, I would say. No, I think what has really fundamentally changed is a few things outside of Heineken, but inside Heineken as well. First of all, I think the maturity of these cloud-based business platforms is very different than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I think we come from, to give some context in Heineken, we have 45 different ERPs. These are monolithic, been there for 20, 30 years. So the willingness to change that has always been very low within Heineken, because we were investing much more in brand building and other, I would say, activities than in modernizing our technology landscape. So what has changed is, I think, first of all, the partners and the platforms that are available that we think are actually good enough for us to adopt. Second has changed that the willingness in Heineken to actually now address the complexity that we have, not so much from a technology point of view only, but from a process standardization, a data standardization, and then from that technology, new architecture we work towards, that willingness is fully there. And I think the drive now to actually do that is very different than it was 5 or 10 years ago, when we're talking about we need to replace our ERP, it is very large, it's very cumbersome. Because the big advantage that we have with this new architecture is that we are already putting in components. So if you talk about replacing the core ERP and around it the business platforms, we are already putting in place business platforms. We have implemented success factors for HR across 80 opcos in 3 years' time. We now have a purchasing or procurement platform already globally rolled out across every single market. So I think the willingness and the confidence that we can actually start moving towards this architecture And we're demonstrating that it works. We are demonstrating we can standardize processes, standardize data on one harmonized technology landscape is much, I'd say, greater than it was previously.
Thank you.
Right. So, of course, we got a visual to underline the story here. If I go to Ragnar, you were mentioning the consulting guys, right? So what did PwC done specifically?
Yeah, so we looked at Europe, let's say the most mature and most complex market region that Heineken has, and the need to step into that best connected brewer philosophy that Jan was talking about. And we strategized together with Heineken Europe how to get into the order of those 3 rings of application strategy. And we went straight into replacing the heart of the matter. And so the approach we took together with Heineken was to rip out, let's say, the heart, which is in finance, replace that with a new SAP environment called Central Finance, and then replicate the legacy data, transform that into a sense that now Heineken is able to transact and report and advance on that in their new finance core. So we put down the first fundamental steps towards that lean ERP core.
And what does it mean for the core financial and systems and the processes, and not only now, but also further on the road, further down the journey in time?
I think what Jan said is you're in a time that you can't do things sequential anymore. So you need to parallelize stuff on the digital product, on the business platform, and in the core. So with this, Heineken is now able to actually, at their own speed and at their own moment, change parts of those architecture and slim down the rest of the ERP into those business platforms, being it its success factors, being it its sales and operational planning, being it order management and pricing and promo. So we accelerated the journey towards that best connected brewer by looking at the core at the start.
Right.
Yes. Ragnar, 1 word or 2 sentences for other CIOs. Should they copy this?
You should learn from it, I think. The ability to, in a very complex environment with a multitude of ERPs, pick out the core fundamentals of how you look at ERP at the start, instead of only starting at the environment around it, is something CIOs could definitely learn from. It is a journey in itself, and I think we have proven together with Heineken, which is a complex environment and complex business, that it is possible. And so it is not only possible to start at the outer rings, which is probably the easy part, the disconnected digital products, but really go straight into the heart of the matter. Yes.
Thank you. Jelmer, at the table as well, T-Systems, what part of the value that Jan was describing does T-Systems take care of?
I think it is in the heart of the core and the business platforms. Yeah, that there needs to be a seamless operation, yeah, to get the seamless supply chain and getting the beers on the festivals and on the tables. That is crucial, and that is how and where especially T-Systems is supporting. And it is also supporting in the way that we are also supporting 80 opcos, with potentially kind of different demands, and together with the central functions, where we try to balance that as much as possible, and that is, I think, also the real value and the partnership that you need to show. Because we are already on a long journey, I think even more than 15 years, with different waves. Like there is a lot of acquisitions done by Heineken globally. We have done the standardization, the harmonization, the cloudification projects, and now we are in the digital enablement. And yeah, that is also at kind of a two-speed that you support your customer, in this case Heineken. That is important.
Jelmer, is Jan's approach unique? And if so, could you point out why?
I think in the start, I would not say it is unique, but it is, and this is also what Ragnar is saying before. It is a highly complex environment, and I think it is impressive, how to balance, the differentiated needs from the operating companies, because I think that Heineken especially understands, where is the money earned that is in the opco. So it is also a real customer from a central point of view. But yeah, you really need to leverage the common platforms, the core systems, economy of scale, etc. But still fulfilling the customer experiences in those opcos. And I think that is especially how, yeah, I think in Young over the many phases over the past in this digital enablement, but also other, let's say, phases in the transformation, have had an extreme, I think, eye for that to find the right balance and enabling the business towards those opcos. Yeah.
So in Young, if you take that into the context of that approach, he supported as, of course, great, right? Great thought, unique. What does it mean for you in the future, for Heineken?
So I think what this will enable, and maybe it's good to talk a bit about, is it unique? I don't think it's unique in itself, because I think everyone is more or less tending towards where can we really leverage cloud-based business platforms, and what does it take to get there? I think in the Heineken context, what is a bit unique, and I'll come back to your question, Rob, which is there's a myth that we need to actually crack in Heineken specifically, which is that if you standardize, that you will lose speed and agility. So there's in the operating companies where we do earn all our money, there is sometimes still a belief, fundamental belief, that standardizing on processes, data, or even on technology will hamper the speed and the flexibility in the market. And that myth, I think we are really cracking. So what this will actually bring us as Heineken in the market is much more speed, because we have people now focusing on designing the best P2P process or the best OTC process. That is not where we are going to win in the market. So what I think this will bring is actually having the resources focused on winning in the market, as we say, and being that standardized on those core and the business platforms will only help accelerate that. Right. So that is what it will bring.
And if you put it in the context of the partnerships and the ecosystems, you're the only guy who's not bringing one but two issues, so to speak, right?
Yeah, complex programs, right?
How important is that? Let's say the maturity levels or the change of maturity levels within ecosystems, within partnerships, and how does that in a certain way resonate with your leadership?
So I think in Heineken, where we are heavily outsourced as well from an IT services point of view, partners are essential. With a couple of remarks, I would say, where, for instance, where Ragnar and PwC have really helped us with, for us S/4HANA was a new technology. So bringing in the expertise, having done those implementations also many times, combined with our knowledge of Heineken, the operating companies and the processes, was fantastic and was necessary, because we wouldn't have been able to do it ourselves because we don't have sufficient understanding how to implement this new technology. And the same applies for T-Systems and many of our other partners, that they need to grow with us where we need actually to have partners, and that is being reevaluated. So there will be cases where we say, actually, let's not use partners, this is so critical or this is so essential for ourselves, we will build it in-house. What I do see is that partners are also trying to redefine their role. Everyone talks about being value added, where you're a platform or you're an SI, and that will have some implications in the market. So for us, it's also very important to see which ones do we really want to grow and develop with, and we have a few strategic partnerships announced, and which ones do we still just look as a commodity service. So that landscape is continuously changing, but partners will be an important part of our ecosystem. And the second is, as much as possible, we try to bring them together. So I really avoid competition between partners, because in the end, they need to resolve things on behalf of Heineken. And I think both, in this case, T-Systems and PwC have understood that very well.
And Jan, can you do one more deep dive on that topic? So what did you need to do in your organization to go from more classical sourcing and procurement to orchestrating an ecosystem of partners like that? So what does it take on your side?
So I think it starts with having a clear view, where do partners actually add value? I think in the past we were sometimes run by partners. I think we've turned that around to say, this is where we are heading towards. We have a very clear view of the architecture, but also of our processes. Where now do partners fit into that landscape? And also assign quite a specific role to those partners. Second is when you build trust and relationships, I think there's an open dialogue, and I'm really forcing them not to only have that with or via Heineken, but also with each other. So two partners that were not here spent an entire day yesterday, without Heineken even there, talking about Heineken, talking about what can they do to improve the collective offering towards us. So I think it is really around a lot of being clarity on what their role is, But secondly, all making sure that they understand they're not doing it there by themselves. They are part of a larger ecosystem and deliver together the best for Heineken.
If you finally, in case of the partners not only involved but in general, new offerings, different positioning, is it in the modularity or is it in the value stream? Are the changes, is that change well enough, let's say, matured already?
No, I think it is maturing. So what I see is, because this, what you see here behind me, the digital backbone is foundational. But what we say is it is actually transforming, first and foremost, Heineken. And for that, you need to change ways of working and you need different business platforms. That part, I think, is fully understood in Heineken. If we transform our supply chain, we transform and digitize our route to consumer, it is understood you need business platforms to do that. What I think we still have work to do, and I have work to do with Heineken, is how we use digital products, how we use innovation to really differentiate in the market and make sure that we have that best connected brewer across partners, employees, customers and consumers.
Right. I would say thank you very much, Ingyang and Ragnar.
And Helma. Thank you.